When you look at NFL Network, Daniel Jeremiah's top Big Ten NFL draft prospects, a lot of those names very familiar to us on the board there, but Fernando Mendoza, IU QB, expected to go #1 overall. Then plenty of Buckeyes, Nittany Lions, a Trojan, and of course a Duck within the top 32. 11 Big Ten players overall in DJ's top 32 NFL draft prospects. So to help me have this conversation, my guy Howard Griffith here, and as much as you've seen this conference over the years, playing it, now covering it with this network since day one, having all these guys from the Big Ten going in the first round, that's not to me the part that feels as unique, but it seems to me that the variety of players, especially the skill position guys expected to go round one, that's really a spot the conference has stepped forward.
Yeah, I think you can make a point that there were, in days past, that we talk about offensive linemen being those big physical guys or defensive guys. Now you're talking about the skill players, and I think a lot of it has to do with the coaching styles. I think we have some unbelievable coaches in this conference right now. Their ability to go out and recruit, and now having these top athletes deciding to choose Big Ten institutions, and they're producing. You just look at that list. There are some unbelievable players there. Some guys have huge upsides when you look at Reese and just his ability. But yeah, the Big Ten Conference is doing really well when it comes to those skilled players being able to be difference makers.
And to have a guy who was at Indiana for one season, Fernando Mendoza, he was certainly viewed as an NFL quarterback in his seasons at Cal, but then came to IU, and amongst a number of different Hoosiers that are going to have the opportunity for their names to be called. What stood out about what you saw from Mendoza in his one season in Bloomington that will translate to the National Football League?
His ability to adapt to the environment that he was in. You talk about being a star quarterback. He knew coming in he was going to be the starter. He needed to obviously go out and prove it. They weren't going to give it to him. But he went out and knew he was going to do that. I thought really the important part was him being able to engage with his teammates and understand, yeah, I'm coming in, I'm going to be the quarterback, but I want to know about you. What makes you tick? What are the things that are important to you? And when you look at him being able to make that transition to the National Football League in those locker rooms, that's what his teammates are going to want to know. They're going to, hey, can you play? Yeah, I can go out and prove that, but what are you going to do? How are you going to get to know us and understand what we want to do to be the best team that we possibly can be? Probably won't be the day one starter, but I think that's just the maturation process of what he needs to go through. He's an unbelievable quarterback, has all the upside in the world, but I think the things he's able to do in the locker room and away from the field are what's going to really make him productive on the field.
To actually stick with that point for one moment, because a former Big Ten great, Kirk Cousins, who's had a fantastic NFL career, the Raiders went out and got him. That, to me, is how the quarterback position is still best developed in my mind. Get a vet in there. Don't force the rook onto the field. Does that excite you for the situation Mendoza goes
It really does excite me because he gets that opportunity. And then when you follow the storylines, you talk about being in this West Coast offense. Yes, it has evolved over time. But he's being trained by Brian Greasy, who's helping out, who's won a national championship undefeated when he was in Michigan. Really did a good job with that, particularly with the 49ers. He's stepped away from that, but now has an opportunity to teach him. And then Kirk Cousins. Think about when he was drafted out of Michigan State to Washington. He was playing in the West Coast offense under the Shanahan. So he understands it. Not to say that he wants to go out and be the teacher and be the guy that's going to be teaching the heir apparent, but he's a guy that understands. So now all of a sudden you have a young quarterback that gets to watch film, watch practice, see how to be a pro. That's one thing. No one can say anything bad about Kirk Cousins. When he steps on the field and when he's in his meeting rooms, he does everything the right way.
You know a few things about winning cultures, a couple of Super Bowls during your playing career. And for Indiana, they're not going to have as many guys drafted on day one as Ohio State. But it seems to me that the culture that Curt Cignetti put in place with the Hoosiers is a big part of why these very talented players will step into the NFL. We'll see a number of Hoosiers within the first 2 days get their names called.
And some of the guys that aren't going to go in the first round, when you look at a guy like D'Angelo Pons, who to me should be a first rounder, but you may look at him a little differently, he's going to be a guy that's going to be able to step in and play. Plays at a high ceiling, understands what he needs to do. These guys understand football. And I think when you start to talk about having a football IQ and being able to raise your level of play and being able to compete and understand what it takes to be a pro, that's what they bring to their organizations that they're going to get a chance to step into. And a lot of these guys weren't obviously heralded guys, had to work their way up the food chain and now have an opportunity to be drafted and really have long careers.
It always fascinates me, that projection that happens where Omar Cooper, he was essentially the number 2 receiver to Elijah Surratt, but you get through this pre-draft phase and folks recognize how special Cooper has the potential to be. It almost seems like Elijah Surratt has maybe been dinged a bit because his overall speed isn't what some folks would project as a top flight wideout. But how do you see both those guys and their potential NFL future?
Well, here's what's interesting when you talk about guys, because once I put you on the board and I'm analyzing everything, I want to know about your speed. I want to know about your height, lateral quickness, and all those things. That's where you get dinged. That's where those things happen. But then once you get into training camp, once you get into the practice field, those things go away.
Right.
Nobody cares. Right? The only thing
There's
that matters.
stopwatches out there in the practice field.
The only thing that matters is, can you run that comeback? Can you get separation? Can you run the fade and be able to lean on the corner to force him to create a pass interference or to be able to create that separation as a wide receiver? I think both of these guys, the way they've played the game and the way they've opened up the routes for themselves as they were going through this season is going to give them ability to be able to help. And that's the process. You know it. People are going to get dinged all the time for something. You're looking for everything that's wrong with the player so that you have all the evidence in front of you. But at the end of the day, you turn on the tape, you look at the production, and both of those guys were really productive at everything they needed to do, including playing man-to-man. When that was played against them, they still created separation.
When you think about all the Buckeye players, certainly it's some on offense, but man, a lot of these Ohio State defenders, you understand why it was so tough to score on them throughout the season. When you think about Arvell Reese, Sonny Styles, Caleb Downs, they're Buckeyes who are going to go really early in this draft and should be impactful right away.
Yeah, it should be. And McDonald is another guy, defensive lineman that nobody's really talking about. I think he's going to have an outstanding career. But when you talk about the guys that are the marquee players, you just look at the upside that they have. You look at the athleticism, and you talk about being able to translate to that next level. That's what people see when they see Reese. They see a guy that, wait, what can I do with him? And I think the challenge for defensive coordinators, whoever is able to draft him, don't let him do too much. Don't try to ask him to do something. Allow him to continue to develop into this player that he is, because I'm on record saying his ceiling, he's nowhere near his ceiling. And that's a good thing for him because he has an opportunity to continue to grow as a player. And you look at Caleb Downs all season long, since he's been playing, people have talked about what a student of the game he has been, and that's really what it was. And last year you saw him doing a lot of different things, whether he was at the line of scrimmage, whether back in coverage, he was able to disguise. So he has a very high football IQ, and I think that's an important part of it.